Hello, my name is Larry, and this week we are cutting open outlets and looking at the insides. Let me know at any time if you ever have any questions about home improvement projects you have going on. So these are basic North America outlets, standard 120 volts. They have a hot, a neutral. The hot is the cold side, the small side slot. The neutral is the large slot, and the ground is the third hole. The ground is also signified by a green screw there. So when you're wiring your connections, the black wire goes to the gold screw. The white wire goes to the silver screw. If you have a hard time remembering that, you can simply say black is for the brass colored screw and white is the neutral, goes for the silver colored screw. And the ground is bare copper, and that is the green screw at the bottom. If the house was built before approximately 1960s or so, you won't have a ground wire in your electrical system. Now, recently we've been cutting into some outlets to see what the insides look like. You'll be shocked to see they're mostly all plastic. There's nothing that special about them. In fact, we have another one right here. On this one, we were testing out the safety feature. So these modern outlets, to meet code today for modern outlets, they have to be TP, marked TP, tamper resistant. That means if you stick something metal in one of the prongs, it will not let the plug in unless it has two plugs going in at the same time. And that's this little spring-loaded mechanism right here. So it will not allow one piece of metal to go in unless there's two pieces of metal going in at the same time. Those little shutter doors will then open and let you plug into your outlet. So that is a safety device that's been required for a few years now. Again, those are called tamper resistant or TR outlets. You can still buy the basic old school outlets that are not tamper resistant. Technically, they don't meet code, but as of this time, as of this day of this recording, you can still buy them. Now, when you upgrade from cheap outlets, a cheap outlet is anything that's about $1, $1 to $2. They're pretty cheap. They're mostly all plastic. Let me show you again for the people that just entered. When you cut open an outlet, there's very few metal parts there. They're actually pretty much all plastic, and your electrical connections are coming in at the side, and then it's transferring to your plugs. But it's basically all plastic on the inside. So they're very cheap to manufacture. A cheap outlet is anywhere from about $1 to $2. I've seen them as cheap as 75 cents for a brand new outlet. When you're in the home improvement stores, if they're loose leaf, if they're just all by themselves in a bin, they're a real cheap outlet. In the back, they have no good quality connections. They do have something called a quick connector. If you have a small 14 gauge wire or less, you can put it in the quick connector, but it's always best practice to hook around the screw. However, if you upgrade just a little bit more money, you get into the $3 to $5 range for an outlet. Now, when you're looking at the home improvement stores, the higher quality outlets, they're not sold loose leaf single like that in the bins. They're actually in a box. Right here. Once you upgrade to this, once you upgrade to an outlet in a box, then you're talking probably $3 to $6. And if you weigh them, they're higher quality, they're name brand. This one's Eaton, name brand, higher quality. And if you actually weighed a cheap outlet to an expensive outlet, they actually weigh more. They're better built. And one cool thing about the better outlets is when you go to install your wires on the side, instead of having to do the old-fashioned stupid hook and loop system, they have these pressure plates right here on the side. So you're simply loosening up the screw, sticking it in that pressure plate right there, and then just tightening it on down. You don't have to bend or hook the wire at all. There's less mistakes being made, and they give you extra connections. There's 2 wires per terminal screw, and then another 2 down here. Let me turn that around. Of course, the black goes to the gold screw. The nanny state just can't leave. Sorry, I have on the vertical, it prints it real small. The nanny state just can't leave anything alone. I hate those tamper resistant outlets. I accidentally brought one home. It's the biggest mistake. Yeah, so they still You still can buy the non-TR, non-tamper resistant outlets. Although I imagine at some time they will be going away, you'll be in Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's and they won't be available. But yeah, as of today, they're still available. But I do think at some point they're going away. You won't be able to get them anymore. Maybe you could still order them online for a period of time. But the reason we won't be able to get them anymore in the future, and if you don't know what the Commodore is mentioning, TR right there. TR, and then again, it's up here on the product label, TR. TR means tamper resistant. So if electrician is claiming to meet code, he or she has to be installing a tamper resistant outlet. But as the homeowner, you can legally do your own work and it does not have to be a tamper resistant outlet. Nobody will know or care, to be honest. You can buy an old fashioned basic outlet. An old-fashioned basic outlet. This one is about a $2 outlet, and you can install that yourself, and it's not stamped as tamper resistant, which means the prongs work just like they used to for our entire life. When you plug something in, it will go in nice and quick and easy, and you won't be fighting it. If you've noticed on the newer outlets, when you go to plug something in, it feels extremely stiff, and it's hard, sometimes to get it in just right. You feel like you're pushing harder than you used to push. That's true. The reason there is those little black shutters called the tamper resistant. It's allowing only a plug with two prongs going in it at the same time. The theory was, I don't have one handy. Maybe I do. They're all Phillips. They're all Phillips and electrical screwdrivers. I was looking for a basic flathead screwdriver. The theory was if a kid, this is plugged in your house like every day, and a kid is playing with an outlet, sticking a fork or something in there, the theory was he's going to get electrocuted. But if they came up with this fancy tamper resistant design, then it won't, in theory, work out that way. But what's going to happen, and it's already happening, is the tamper resistant mechanism breaks. It's not a solid state design. It breaks very easily, and it's harder to push your plug into the outlet. So that'll be an unforeseen problem there. Um, Ronald, thanks for coming. Why not? Why do most electricians not want to touch knob and tube homes? That's a good question. So knob and tube electrical wiring, guys, in case you don't know, is the oldest electrical wiring this country has seen. So I would guess roughly it's turn of the century, 1900s, till about 1930s/40s, up until the 40s probably. In the 1950s, it's this gray cloth wrapped wiring, and it looks more like our modern Romex wiring that we see today. Ronald, I honestly think it's just all about liability. That wiring perhaps is 100 years old or close to it, and they're just scared of liability. Um, there is some theory that if you leave it alone, they'll leave you alone. The outer coating, which is called uh, the insulator, this little insulation piece, is made of natural rubber. It at least has some portions of natural rubber in it on knob and tube. I don't have a sample here, but on knob and tube. So over time, natural rubber does break down. And when it breaks down, it will expose the conductors, thus making it unsafe or more unsafe. So a lot of electricians will refuse to work with it. That is true. And increasingly, it's actually getting worse. Increasingly, a lot of homeowners, insurance companies, they won't issue you a homeowner's policy if you have knob and tube wiring. In fact, when you buy the house and the policy, they'll ask you if it's there, if you ever had a claim and you had knob and tube wiring, and they claim that you didn't tell them, they might deny your claim, and then you'd have to hire an attorney. So it is becoming a problem. It's becoming a problem with electricians refusing to work on it, which obviously would be safer if they would just work on it rather than just saying, we're not going to touch it. It's kind of a salesman thing, right? They're saying, we're not going to touch it, but if you pay me $6,000, $8,000, I'll rewire the entire house. So, they're kind of putting a little bit of a gun to your head saying, hey, if you do this upgrade for many, many thousands of dollars, I'll work on your house. Otherwise, I'm not going to work on your house and not going to fix your problem. So it's a little bit of a bait and switch, a little bit of a trick. But yeah, the homeowners policy is becoming an increasing problem with um, my insulation company can't put this. Yes, that is true. So what he's referring to there, guys, is if you have knob and tube wiring in the attic is the most common, where it's exposed, and you want to put insulation over the top. It's not rated for that. It won't air cool, it won't breathe. So you wanna do the right thing, you wanna add more insulation and make your house more, environmentally friendly and save on your heating bills, but unfortunately, nobody will do it, because of the increased risk of a house fire. So, in that case, you might wanna keep shopping around and seeing if you can find electricians that will replace that portion of the knob and tube wiring. Um, and there may also be other things like could you do spray and foam insulation maybe in the rafters, up in the rafters, and not do the horizontals in the attic? Likely that's where the knob and tube wiring is. So see if there's a workaround. I have seen people get creative with more attic insulation, even with old knob and tube electrical wiring. But yeah, it is becoming a problem, especially with insurance companies. It's becoming a problem. Also, homeowners insurance companies are increasingly refusing to issue policies or renew your homeowner's policy if your roof shingles are very, very old. They will actually pay a service like Google Earth to look in and kind of spy on your roof. And they look at the picture and they deem the shingles as looking old, they will not renew your policy. So that's becoming a major problem. 7K to have it all converted over. Okay, I think I was close. I think I roughly said 6 to 8,000 to rewire the entire house. It is a lot of money. That's a lot of money. You know, sometimes, my friends and relatives, rather than doing a major upgrade, sometimes they'll say, "Hey, I'll just sell it and buy someplace else." Well, home values are very, very up and elevated right now. So, Ronald, you'll get a very, very good price for your home. That's for sure. However, you have to buy in the same market, so you probably already know when you look to see what's available to buy something, you have to pay elevated prices to replace your existing home. So now you have a larger mortgage and you're no farther ahead. So something to think about, Ronald. I don't know your age. I don't know how long you're going to be in that house. If you are going to be in that house for a significant time, I would encourage you to think about upgrading the electrical. And, ask everybody in town, what electrician have they used? Who do they like? Who do they not like? Make sure, of course, they're licensed and insured and all of that, and look for their reputation. But if you're going to be there many, many more years, maybe think about doing that. You're 78 years old. I'm not laughing. But that is a crucial bit of information because with that, then maybe I wouldn't worry about it. It's gonna be possibly an issue with you, Ronald, when you go to sell the house. But if I don't mean to be crude, but if you think that your last home and you're gonna die in that house and you're not moving, all right, Ronald, you're not moving, that's your permanent house, then don't worry about it. No big deal. Don't worry about it. Don't fret about it. Don't worry about it. But yeah, if you said you were 30 years old and you wanted to sell the house in the summertime, you would probably at least have to do the knob and tube upgrade or reduce the house price to get it to sell, to give some concessions to the future buyer because their home inspector is going to pick it out as a significant concern. For those of you that didn't see this electrical outlet picture yet, we took a basic everyday outlet and we cut it in half. So you can see what the inside is, what you're paying for. You're paying for pretty much all plastic. There's nothing too fancy in there. Now your electrical connections go on the side here, of course, and those terminal screws are metal. And then the power gets transferred to the inner plug. And that's about it. You're mostly paying for plastic. Hi, thank you for stopping over. Let me know if you have any home improvement questions. And then when you're wiring up outlets or switches, it's pretty much always the same. The black wire goes over the gold screw. Now, some people have corrected me. An easy way to remember that is instead of calling that the gold screw, call it the brass screw, brass colored screw. So B for black, B for brass. So black to brass, and that's easy to remember. Now, if you're doing an old-fashioned outlet like that, you're going to make a little J-hook connection on your wire, and you're going to go over the screw. Of course, white wire goes on the other side. Now, if you pay to upgrade to better outlets, they will last longer. They're heavier duty. Probably just replace one time and you're done. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you. I appreciate you stopping over as well. If you upgrade to better quality outlets, they will last longer. They're heavier duty, even rated as residential, not commercial. They're still heavier duty. You get what you pay for. When you pay for a $1 outlet, you get a cheap $1 outlet. If you pay for a $5 outlet, it will be better quality and last longer. And the better quality outlets coming in the boxes have these awesome, let me get my wire again, have these awesome little terminal connections right here in the back. So instead of making hook connections, you can keep the wire straight, make your life simpler, literally just pushing it right into that slot. And when you screw it down, you're good to go. You no longer even have to make piggy tail connections in your boxes and then to the outlets because you have too many wires for the outlet. Here you're allowed to now to do 4 wires per side, 4 blacks, 4 neutrals. You're not going to have any more wires than that in the outlet. That's all you're ever going to need. You'll be all set. So that technology has made your life better. There's even some quick connect outlets that have levers on them. I actually don't have a sample of that one, but they actually have these outlets now with levers on them that last a long, long time, and they're super, super easy to install as well. But yeah, the upgraded outlets are better than the cheap $1 outlets. You will get a significantly better product by upgrading the outlet from $1 cheapy outlets to a $5 solid state outlet. And then these are all the rages. We've put up a few videos with these over the years on the channel. These USB outlets. So these are kind of all the rage. Now, some things to keep in mind, these cost significantly more than a basic outlet. Your basic outlets are $1 to $5. A USB outlet. So this one has your 2 standard outlets. It has USB-C, these little small ones, has 2 of them. Then has traditional USB-A, the larger one. So this one has everything you're ever going to need. You're not going to need chargers and the charging bricks or anything like that from Apple or Samsung. You can plug all your charging devices right into it. These are about $50 to $60. However, I've been noticing online and in stores, they are coming down. It used to be Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards didn't even carry these in the stores not that long ago, and you did have to order these online. Specialty electrical shops, Amazon, that kind of thing. Well, now you can just buy it right off the store shelves, and they're coming down in price nicely. You're probably now in like the $30-ish range for a fancy USB outlet. Now, if you look at the back, they're significantly thicker, significantly larger than a basic old school outlet. It's just huge format, just large. There's a lot going on in there. A lot more electronics, computer chips, a lot more going on in there. So you will need more room in the box. These sometimes are tight to fit in the box. You don't want to remember to put electrical tape over the side screws. So when you're pushing it back into the box, it's not pinching on any existing wires because it is a much, much tighter fit when you're going into the electrical box compared to the old-fashioned outlet. So just keep that in mind. But over time, you will save yourself some money. Somebody else pointed out that when these outlets are installed, even with nothing plugged into them, they do use a small amount of electricity because of the circuitry it takes to run these USB smart devices. It does take a little bit of power to run that. So even when there's nothing plugged into these, you're still using a little bit of electricity. I do believe that's the case. I think they were telling the truth, but it's a negligible amount. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2 pennies a day. It's hardly nothing. So long term, I think with USB outlets, you will save money. Not having to buy plug-in adapters and convenience. You're paying for convenience and it's worth it because all your chargers and iPhones and iPads and just everything can just plug right into these. So that's the future. You want to put these by your nightstand, kitchen, counters, anywhere where you think you are currently using charging and plug-in devices. Let me know, guys, if you have any other questions in the chat. We were just popping in real quick tonight just to show you what the inside of electrical outlets look like when you happen to slice them in and looking at the different components, seeing how the tamper resistant features work, how they engineered that. I'll be honest with you, with tamper resistant being code required, I thought, heck, they know what they're doing, right? I thought it was going to be a really highly engineered, great, great product. And if you can see that, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of a highly engineered great product. It's a tiny, cheap little spring. Let me get something to poke at it. It's a tiny, cheap little spring with two little black shutter pieces right here that slide back and forth. If you were to have an electrical prong go in there on one side, it won't allow it on the other side. It only, whoops, I lost one. It only allows it when you push in a plug at the same time. So yeah, it broke right there in front of you. These are code required. They're called tamper resistant outlets. Your electrician will charge you more money for installing these, and they're pretty cheap and pretty flimsy, and it's probably a horrible design, or it is a horrible design. They could have came up with something much better, or they could have just left it alone, because I don't know that there's a rash of kids sticking forks in outlets unsupervised and having problems. There's lots of other problems, but I don't think that was a huge problem. It's the electrical code, in case you don't know, gets renewed every 3 years. Every 3 years, there's a new electrical code that gets adopted, and they keep adding more and more and more requirements. And to be in the trades or building a house, you have to meet those requirements, but it just makes it more expensive to build a house, to have an electrician come over to work on your electrical system, because every 3 years, the code book is already that thick of requirements, and every 3 years, they keep adding more and more requirements. So the tamper resistant requirement is just the latest, and there's more coming down the pike, more coming down the road. In the United States, the newest one that I'm aware of is they're now going to make an exterior disconnect switch on the side of your home be required. So when you drive up to a house and you see the electrical service, the line coming overhead, usually there's going to be a requirement for electrical disconnect switch, so they can turn off the main on the side of your house. The electrical panel in the house that was the main, that now will be considered a sub panel box. So that will be required, code required of all new builds, all new construction, and major renovations when they're changing out the service panel. So service panel replacements and new construction code will require electrical disconnects to be on the outside of the homes, and then the feeder wire can continue on inside. So that's just going to make it, again, more expensive to build homes and to renovate homes and change electrical service.